My name is Lucas Bennett, and 3 days after my father died, my older brother stole my inheritance in front of my entire family. He did it with a smile. Not a nervous smile. Not the kind of smile someone wears when they know they are doing something wrong. It was calm. Confident. Almost proud. Like he had been waiting his whole life for that moment. We were sitting in a conference room at my father's attorney's office, the kind of room that smelled like old leather, expensive coffee, and bad news. My mother sat beside my brother, holding a tissue in one hand and his arm with the other. My aunt was crying quietly. My cousins whispered near the back wall, and I sat across the table, still wearing the black suit from Dad's funeral, trying to understand how my life had turned into something cold and unreal. My father, Robert Bennett, had been gone for less than a week. The grief was still raw. I could still hear his voice. Still smell the aftershave he used every morning. Still remember his hand squeezing my shoulder in the hospital when he whispered, "No matter what happens, Lucas, trust the truth." At the time, I thought he was talking about courage. I did not know he was leaving me a warning. The attorney, Mr. Harlan, opened a folder and adjusted his glasses. Before he could speak, my brother, Grant, leaned back in his chair and said, "Let's not drag this out." That was Grant. Even at our father's will reading, he acted like everyone else existed to waste his time. Grant was 38. 4 years older than me. Tall, polished, and handsome in a way that made strangers trust him before he said a word. Growing up, people called him charismatic. I called him dangerous. Because charm is harmless, only when it comes with a conscience. Grant never had one. When we were kids, he lied effortlessly. If money disappeared from Mom's purse, he said I took it. If he broke a window, he said I dared him. If he crashed Dad's truck at 17, he somehow convinced our parents that I had distracted him. And every time, my mother believed him. My father was different. Dad saw Grant more clearly than anyone else did. He never hated him. But he did not trust him. That alone created a quiet war in our family. My mother defended Grant as if he were made of glass. Dad protected me as if he knew someday I would need someone on my side. And Grant hated me for it. He hated that Dad trusted me with the family business accounts. He hated that Dad asked my opinion. He hated that when Dad got sick, I was the one who drove him to appointments, sat with him through treatments, and learned how to manage the warehouse he had built from nothing. Grant visited when people were watching. I stayed when nobody was. That was the difference. Or at least, I thought it was. Mr. Harlan began reading Dad's will. At first, everything sounded normal. Some money to my mother. Small gifts to relatives. A donation to the veterans charity Dad supported for years. Then the room changed. Mr. Harlan paused. He frowned slightly. Then he read the part that destroyed me. The family house, the warehouse property, the investment account, and controlling interest in Bennett Supply Company would go to Grant. Everything. My brother got everything. I got one sentence. To my younger son, Lucas Bennett, I leave the sum of $1. $1. I stared at the attorney. I honestly thought I had misheard him. The room went silent. My aunt stopped crying. My mother looked down at the table. Grant's smile widened. I turned to Mr. Harlan. That can't be right. He looked uncomfortable. This is the document submitted as your father's final will. Final? Grant spoke before the attorney could answer. Dad changed his mind. I looked at him. What did you do? His eyes hardened. Careful. My mother grabbed his arm. Lucas, please. Not now. I stared at her. Not now? Mom, he just took everything. She flinched. Your father made his choice. No. That was the first word that rose inside me. No, my father would never have done that. Not because I believed I deserved everything. Not because I was greedy. But because Dad was careful. Fair. Almost painfully fair. He used to divide birthday cake slices with a ruler when we were kids because he hated hearing us argue. That man would not leave one son a company and the other son $1 without a reason. And if there was a reason, he would have told me. I said, Dad would never cut me out like this. Grant leaned forward. Maybe you didn't know him as well as you thought. That sentence did something to me. Maybe it was the smugness. Maybe it was the grief. Maybe it was the memory of Dad's hand gripping mine in the hospital. Trust the truth. I stood up. This isn't over. Grant laughed softly. It is. Lucas. Then he looked me directly in the eyes. You lost. At that moment, I knew two things. First, my brother had stolen from me. Second, he had made one mistake. He thought grief would make me weak. But grief did not make me weak. It made me patient. And patience is dangerous when the truth is waiting to be found. For the next 2 weeks, Grant moved fast. Too fast. He changed the locks at Bennett Supply. He removed my access to company accounts. He told employees I was taking time to grieve. He moved into Dad's office before the funeral flowers had even wilted. At home, my mother avoided me. Every time I asked about the will, She said the same thing. Lucas, your father knew what he was doing. But she never looked me in the eye when she said it. That mattered. My mother was many things. Emotional. Protective of Grant. Easily manipulated. But she was not a good liar. Something was wrong. I started with the obvious. I called Mr. Harlan and requested a copy of the will. He hesitated, then agreed. When I picked it up, I noticed something strange immediately. The signature looked like Dad's. Almost. But the pressure was wrong. My father had arthritis in his right hand during the last year of his life. His signatures had become shaky, uneven. This signature was smooth. Too smooth. I hired a forensic document examiner. It cost more than I wanted to spend, but I did not care. Then I asked Mr. Harlan when the will had been signed. He told me it was dated 6 weeks before Dad died. That made no sense. 6 weeks before he died, Dad was in the hospital. Weak. Tired. Barely able to hold a spoon. He was not driving across town to sign estate documents. When I asked where it had been signed, Mr. Harlan checked his files and frowned. The document was not prepared by my office. I felt my pulse spike. What? He looked troubled. Your brother delivered it 2 days after your father's passing. It appears to have been prepared by another legal service. Did Dad ever tell you he was changing the will? Mr. Harlan removed his glasses. No. That was all I needed. The old will existed. The real one. Mr. Harlan said he had drafted it years earlier. In that version, my mother received the house for life, Grant and I shared the company, and several protections were included so neither brother could force the other out. That sounded like Dad. That sounded exactly like Dad. So where had this new will come from? I spent days searching. My mother protested at first. Grant threatened to call the police if I entered the company office. So I waited until one of the warehouse managers, Denise, called me quietly and said, "Your dad kept a private lockbox." I drove to the warehouse after closing. Denise let me in through the side door. She had worked for Dad for 23 years. She hugged me when I arrived. "I'm sorry, Lucas," she said. "About Dad?" She looked toward his office. "About all of it." That told me she knew something. We found the lockbox behind a false panel in Dad's old supply closet. I had never seen it before. Denise handed me the key. "Your father gave this to me 6 months ago," she said. "He told me if anything happened and things got strange, I should give it to you." Things got strange. My chest tightened. Inside the box were 3 folders. The first contained the old will. Signed. Notarized. Filed properly. The second contained company records showing Grant had taken money from Bennett Supply years earlier and blamed accounting errors. The third folder contained something I did not understand at first. Medical records. Old letters. A photograph of my mother standing beside a man I did not recognize. And a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands shook when I opened it. Dad's handwriting was weaker than I remembered, but unmistakable. "Lucas. If you are reading this, then I am gone, and something has happened that forced you to look for the truth. I am sorry. There are things I should have told you years ago, but I chose silence because I thought it would protect this family. Silence never protects anyone for long. It only gives lies more time to grow. Grant may try to take what is not his. If he does, you need to know why I made certain decisions. Grant is not my biological son." I stopped reading. The room tilted. Denise said my name, but her voice sounded far away. "Grant is not my biological son." I read the sentence again. Then again, it still did not make sense. My brother, my older brother. The golden son, my mother protected. The man who had just stolen everything after Dad died. He was not Dad's son. The letter continued. "Your mother had an affair before we married. I found out when Grant was 5. By then, I had raised him, loved him, and given him my name. I chose to stay because I believed a father is more than blood. But as Grant grew older, I saw things in him that frightened me. Not because he was not mine by blood, but because he believed love meant entitlement. I never wanted to punish him for the truth. But I also could not allow him to destroy what I built or take from you what you earned. If this truth becomes necessary, use it carefully. Not for revenge, for justice." I sat down on the office floor. For years, I thought Dad was harder on Grant because he saw through his lies. Now I understood there was another layer. Dad had known. My mother had known. Grant had probably known too. And the will suddenly made sense. Not Dad's will. Grant's fake one. Grant had stolen everything because somewhere deep down, he knew the truth could take everything away. I took photos of every document. Then I called an attorney. Not Mr. Harlan. A litigation attorney named Rebecca Shaw, recommended by Denise. When I sat in Rebecca's office the next morning, she listened without interrupting. Then she said, "We need a DNA test." I almost laughed. "How?" "Dad is gone." She leaned forward. "There are ways. Medical samples. Personal items. Relatives. But first, we challenged the will." The legal process began immediately. Grant exploded when he found out. He called me 12 times. Then texted. You have no idea what you're doing. Then another. You're going to destroy mom. Then another. Dad wanted me to have it. Accept it. I did not respond. My mother called crying. Lucas. Please stop. I asked her one question. Did Dad write that will? Silence. Mom. She sobbed. Grant said your father changed his mind. That's not what I asked. She cried harder. That was answer enough. Then I asked the second question. Is Grant Dad's son? The silence that followed was different, heavier, older. Finally, she whispered, who told you? I closed my eyes. So it was true, I said. Dad did. She made a sound like something broke inside her. You read the letter? Yes. Lucas. You don't understand. I think I understand more than you want me to. She cried. Your father loved him. I know. He raised him. I know. This will ruin him. I thought about Grant smiling at the will reading. You lost. No. I said. Grant ruined himself. Then I hung up. 3 months later, the court ordered a DNA comparison using preserved medical samples from Dad's final hospital stay and a sample from Grant. Grant fought it. Of course he did. His attorney argued privacy, relevance, emotional harm. Anything to delay the inevitable. But the forged will investigation changed everything. The document examiner concluded the signature was likely not Dad's. The notary listed on the document could not be found. The legal service that supposedly prepared it had no record of Dad as a client. The walls around Grant were cracking. When the DNA results arrived, Rebecca called me into her office. She did not make me wait. She handed me the report. Probability of paternity. 0%. Grant was not Dad's biological son. I expected to feel satisfaction. I did not. I felt sick. Not because I cared about blood. Because Dad had been right. Silence had given lies room to grow. And now everyone was bleeding. In court, everything collapsed. The fake will was thrown out. The old will was recognized. Grant lost control of the company. The judge referred the forged document issue for criminal investigation. My mother sat in the courtroom crying quietly. Grant sat stone-faced, staring straight ahead. For the first time in my life, he had no performance left. After the hearing, he followed me into the hallway. You happy? He snapped. I looked at him. No. He laughed bitterly. You got what you wanted. No, I said. I wanted my father alive. I wanted my brother not to be a thief. I wanted my mother to tell the truth before it destroyed everyone. His face twisted. You think blood makes you better than me? That hit a nerve. I stepped closer. No. Dad loved you without blood. You threw that away for money. For once, he had no comeback. My mother approached us slowly. Her face was pale. Grant, she whispered. He turned on her. You knew. She flinched. You all knew. Grant, your father loved you. He wasn't my father. The hallway went silent. I said quietly, he was. That's the worst part. He chose you. You just never chose him back. Grant looked at me with pure hatred. Then he walked out. A week later, he disappeared. Not forever. Just long enough to drain what money he had already taken from company accounts before the court froze everything. When investigators found him months later, he was in Florida using a different last name and trying to sell equipment that belonged to Bennett Supply. He was arrested. Fraud. Forgery. Embezzlement. The Golden Son finally discovered that charm does not work on bank records. My mother fell apart. For months, she barely left the house. I moved back into Dad's old office at Bennett Supply and tried to save the company. It was worse than I thought. Grant had signed bad contracts, borrowed against equipment, fired good employees, promoted yes men. The damage was everywhere. But Denise stayed. So did a handful of loyal workers who had loved Dad enough to take a chance on me. We rebuilt slowly. One supplier at a time. One client at a time. One honest decision at a time. A year after the will reading, I found one more envelope in Dad's desk. It had slipped behind a drawer. This one was addressed to both of us. Lucas and Grant. I sat alone in the office for almost an hour before opening it. Dad had written it before the final letter. Before he knew how bad things would get. My sons, I have made many mistakes as a father. I was too hard when I should have been gentle, and too silent when I should have been brave. Lucas, you have always carried more than you should. I am proud of the man you became. Grant, if you are reading this, know this. I loved you from the moment I held you. Biology did not make me your father. Choice did. Every day, I chose you. I only wish you had believed that love was enough. Whatever happens after I am gone, do not let money become the thing that proves I failed. I cried reading that letter. Because money had become exactly that. Proof of every failure. Every lie. Every silence. I made a copy for Grant and mailed it to the jail where he was being held. He never replied. My mother eventually came to the warehouse one afternoon. She stood in the doorway of Dad's office like a ghost. I looked up from my desk. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "He always wanted you in that chair." I looked around the office. Dad's old chair. Dad's shelves. Dad's framed photograph of the first delivery truck he ever bought. "I know." She began crying. "I'm sorry. I waited." She continued, "I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I protected Grant when I should have protected the truth. I'm sorry I let your father carry that secret alone." Her voice broke. "And I'm sorry I let you think you were less important." That was the first real apology she had ever given me. No excuses. No defense. Just pain and truth. I nodded slowly. "Thank you." She asked if I could forgive her. I said, "I don't know yet." That hurt her. But it was honest. I was tired of lies. Grant took a plea deal. He served time. Not as much as I thought he deserved. More than my mother could handle. When he got out, he left the state. I heard rumors over the years. Texas. Nevada. Arizona. Another business. Another girlfriend. Another name. Maybe he changed. Maybe he did not. I stopped needing to know. Bennett Supply survived. Then it grew. Not because of me alone, because of the people Dad had chosen well. People like Denise. People who believed loyalty meant showing up when things were ugly, not just when the checks were good. 3 years after Dad's death, we opened a new warehouse. At the ribbon cutting, I invited my mother. She came quietly, wearing the pearl earrings Dad had given her on their 25th anniversary. After the ceremony, she stood beside me watching employees celebrate. "He would be proud," she said. I looked at the building. The people, the company that almost died because of greed and silence. Then I said, "I hope so." She touched my arm. "He was proud of you before any of this." For once, I believed her. People always focus on the DNA test when they hear my story. They think that was the twist, the shocking secret, the big reveal. But to me, the DNA test was not the real truth. The real truth was that my father had loved a son who was not his by blood, and that son still chose betrayal. The real truth was that inheritance can reveal what love never fixed. The real truth was that family is not proven by biology, paperwork, or a last name. It is proven by what you protect when nobody is watching. My brother stole my inheritance after Dad died. Then a DNA test revealed he was not Dad's son. But the saddest part was not that Grant lacked Dad's blood. The saddest part was that he had Dad's love and decided it was worth less than money. As for me, I inherited more than a company. I inherited the truth. I inherited the responsibility to rebuild what greed tried to destroy. And most importantly, I inherited my father's final lesson. Blood can explain where you came from. But character decides who you become. Grant had a chance to be my father's son. He threw it away. I had a chance to become bitter. I chose to build. And every morning, when I walk into Bennett Supply and see my father's name on the wall, I remember what he told me in that hospital room. Trust the truth. I did. And the truth gave me back everything my brother tried to steal. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.